Tessa. Hi, everyone. This is actually Lori from Kid Made Modern. I'm here to introduce Tessa from Shop Studio Jane. Some of you probably have been in one of our classes before. We've been doing lots of classes with Michaels. It's always so fun. Just a heads up that I'll be moderating the session. So if you have questions for Tessa as she's crafting along with you today, please put them in the Q&A and I will ask Tessa the questions for you and answer any questions that you might have. All right, Tessa, I think we are ready to get started.
All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for crafting with us today. I am so excited that it is spooky season and we are making these cute little tassel ghosts today. So we're going to learn how to make tassels using yarn and a piece of cardboard. I'm going to go through all the supply list for you guys in just a second here, but you can see you can really get creative and make your little ghosts any style you want. So we'll decorate them after we make all of our tassels, and then you can get as creative as you want. Okay, so to make our tassel ghost today, we are going to be using yarn. So I have a few different bolts of yarn here. I chose some of my favorite Halloween colors. So I have orange, black, and white, and a little bit of green as well. You can make your ghosts any color that you want. So if you want to make them all white, or all black, or all orange, or maybe purple is fun for Halloween too. Any color you want is going to be great. I'm sure ghosts come in all sorts of colors. So we're going to be using yarn and then a piece of cardboard. So I just have a little cardboard scrap here. It's about 6 inches square. So 6 inches by 6 inches. And it is just a little scrap piece. We're going to use this to wrap the yarn around in order to make our tassels. You can also use like a piece of mail or envelope. You can use a book, just something that's going to be hard and rigid so you can wrap your yarn around it and it doesn't fold in half. So you can even cut like a paper plate into a square, something like that, that you have nice edges would be great. And then we're going to be using scissors. So grab a pair of scissors. We're going to be using glue dots. So I just have a little roll of glue dots here. These you can get at Michael's. Hopefully you already have some on hand. They are mess-free glue. If you don't have glue dots today, you can definitely use just like a liquid craft glue. It will take longer to dry on your yarn. So just know that when you get to the decorating phase that you might need to wait a little longer till you can play with your ghosts. Or if you're crafting with an adult, you can use a hot glue gun or another form of like tacky glue, something like that would work. All right. And then to decorate our little ghosts, we're going to be using some little pom-poms and googly eyes. Got all sorts of fun googly eyes. We've got fuzzy sticks in coordinating Halloween colors. I have a little piece of black felt here, or little strips of felt. And all these fun, colorful elements are all from our Kid Made Modern Arts and Crafts library. So you can dig out your favorite colors to coordinate for Halloween or whatever colors you want to make your ghosts. And then lastly, we are using some little wooden craft sticks. These are also in our Kid Made Modern Arts and Crafts library. You can use some of the colorful ones if you want. These we're going to put in at the end so that you can easily hold your ghosts up. You can also use like a colored pencil or a paintbrush or a paper straw. Anything like that will work, but we're going to be using these little wooden craft sticks. All right, I think that those are all of our supplies. Again, if you don't have everything that I just listed, don't worry about that. Your main thing you want is yarn today to learn how to make a tassel, and then pick all your favorite or your whatever colors or little elements you want to use to decorate your ghosts. So dig through your Kid Made Modern supplies and pull out some of your favorite little pieces. You could use buttons, sequins, pom-poms, all sorts of goodies. All right, so I'm gonna flip over my camera so you guys can see, and we're gonna make some tassels. All right, so you can see I've got all my supplies here all gathered together. And for our first step is going to be making the tassels themselves. So we're going to start here with our orange yarn. And you can use, again, any color that you want. And I have my little piece of cardboard here. And again, this little piece of cardboard is just a little scrap piece. You can use like the edge of a box or cut off the top of a box. Anything like that will work. So, and we're going to make 5 different tassels today. So we're going to make use the same technique of making a tassel over and over again. So if you are a little bit slower at this, don't worry, take your time. We're going to make multiple. Okay, so our first step, I'm going to hold the cardboard in one hand, and then I have my end of my yarn here. I'm going to hold it on the top of my cardboard with one finger. So you can see my yarn is at the top of my cardboard. I'm holding it on. And then with my other hand, I'm going to take the yarn and wrap it down and around the cardboard. So you can see it's on both sides now. And we're going to do this over and over again to loop it around. Once you get a couple of loops around, then you don't have to hold it on. It will hold on to that little tail itself. And then just keep wrapping around and around. And for each ghost, I'm going to wrap it about 20 times or so. You can make your ghosts, if you want them to be bigger or thicker, then you can wrap it more. If you want them to be really thin little ghosts, then you can wrap it less. But I would say you want to do at least 10 or so wraps in order to have a full looking tassel.
Hey, Tessa, how big is that piece of cardboard that you're using?
It's about 6 inches. And that is totally up to you and how big you want your ghost to be. You can see these little ghosts here. They're a little bit shorter than my cardboard here. Once we gather it all up, it'll shrink up a little bit. But that's how big I wanted to make my little ghosts, but you can definitely make them bigger or smaller. So if you have a smaller piece of cardboard, then your ghost just might be a little bit smaller. Or if you want to make giant ones, you can do that. Yours will just be really long tassel ghosts. Okay, so you can see my yarn is still all attached here to my yarn spool, and I'm just wrapping it around and around. So again, it's on both sides, wrapping around my cardboard. And again, we're going to make this a couple of times so you'll see all the steps. Okay, so I wrapped it around 25 or so times. So once I've gotten to the end here, I'm going to cut my yarn and I'm going to tuck this tail underneath this little bundle of yarn. So now it's all secure on here. Next, I'm going to take a piece of yarn about a foot or so and cut that off. So you can see I have this little piece of yarn. And I'm going to take one end of this extra piece of yarn and put it underneath. So you can see I'm going to pull my yarn bundle off of the cardboard a little bit and push my little end piece of yarn underneath. So now yours should look something like this. So you have this extra piece of yarn that we cut off. It's going underneath this big chunk of yarn that you just wrapped around the cardboard. And then we're going to take it, pull it to the top. And then we're going to tie a knot around the top. And tie a double knot. And to tie a little knot here at the top, we're just going to cross our yarn over one another, creating a little loop here, and take the piece of yarn that you crossed over and tuck it underneath and through the loop. So now you should have this whole chunk of yarn still attached to your cardboard. And then you have this end piece here with a little knot at the top. And from there, we're going to go ahead and slide this off of our cardboard. So now I pulled this off. I basically have like a loop of yarn here. But what we're going to do is cut it in half. So take the end where your little tie is at, hold that on one side, and then put your scissors on the other side to cut the loop free. So now you should have your tie at the top still, and the bottom is cut. And again, we're gonna make another tassel right now, so don't worry, you haven't missed it. If you're just jumping in, we're gonna learn how to make multiple tassels. Okay, so once you've cut off your little yarn bundle here, then you're just gonna gather it at the top to make like a little head at the top, and then we're going to tie yarn around the middle to make a neck. So we're going to cut another piece of yarn, about another foot or so. And then I'm going to hold my tassel in one hand and take my yarn. And we're going to wrap it around a couple of times to make a little neck shape. So you can see as I'm wrapping it around, it's getting skinny in the middle here. And then we're going to tie another knot. So you can see I've got a little knot here, got a little head and a little neck. And then at the end, you can trim off any extra if you want to. You can also leave yours if you want it to all be different lengths. But just like that, you've got a little tassel. So again, we're going to decorate them at the end. So we're going to go through all the same steps now to make another tassel and another color yarn. But that is going to be all the same steps we use over and over again to make as many little tassel ghosts as you want. All right, so I'm gonna set this little one aside and let's make one. What do we think? Let's do a black ghost next. So I've got my black yarn here and my cardboard square. We're gonna do the same exact steps. So I'm holding the cardboard in one hand and my yarn in the other hand. And I'm going to put the yarn right on top of my cardboard and place one finger over that yarn tail. So now my yarn is being held to my cardboard and I can control it with my other hand here. So then from here, we're going to go down and around to the back of my cardboard and then back onto the front. So wrapping it around and around the cardboard. And again, we're gonna make like 5 or so ghosts together today, but you can make as many as you want, or if you are still making your first one, or you are taking your time to make a really thick ghost and wrapping your yarn a lot, then that's fine. You might only make 1 or 2 little tassel ghosts with me today, but then now you'll know how to make them over and over again.
Tassel, we got a note just to slow down just a little bit, but just a heads up for everyone, she is doing the exact same craft, making a tassel. She'll be making that 5 times. So this is the second ghost. So if you fall behind, then don't worry, because we'll be doing it again. And also just a heads up, this is being recorded. So if you need to catch up after the class is finished, then that will be posted to Michael's website as well in about 24 to 72 hours. So you can check it out there.
Perfect. Yes. Thanks, Lori. Okay. So after I wrapped my yarn around about 20 times or so, maybe 25, I cut off my yarn and tucked it underneath my little yarn bundle here. So now you can see my yarn is all connected on both sides of my cardboard. So once you've wrapped your yarn around, we're going to cut a piece of yarn about 1 foot or so long. We're going to slide this underneath the yarn. So you can see here, if I pull the yarn away from the cardboard. So it's still on my cardboard. If I let go, it doesn't fall off, but I can pull it, separate it a little bit. And then I can take this little piece of yarn and push it underneath the little yarn chunk that we just wrapped around. So now you can see here, we've got all of our yarn here, and then we have this new little piece of yarn we cut going underneath. And then we're going to pull this to one end and then tie a double knot. So we're going to cross our pieces of yarn and then go into the circle and do it one more time. So we cross our two pieces of yarn, creating a little loop in the middle, go underneath and through the circle. So now that we have this, we've connected all of our yarn together on one end with this double knot. We can go ahead and slide it off of our cardboard. So now you have this whole little loop of yarn. We've got it tied off on one end and all connected together. So I'm holding the end with the knot on one side, and then I'm just going to take my scissors and go right at the bottom and snip all that yarn loose. So because we tied the top, our little loop of yarn is still all attached. And then looks like a little tassel. So from here, we're going to go ahead and tie a little neck around it. I'm going to use a different color yarn so you can see that a little bit easier. So let's use a little bit of green. And again, I'm just going to cut about a foot or so off. And then what we're going to do is, oh, I have a long piece of yarn here. What we're going to do is hold your tassel in one hand. I'm going to lay this new piece of yarn on top and then hold that piece with your hand and your tassel. And then from there, I'm going to wrap it around and tightening it just a little bit to make a little neck on my ghost. And by doing that, you've left this extra piece here that makes it really easy to wrap it around a couple times and then tie a double knot. And then you can just trim off these little extra bits if you want. You can also leave those if you want to. Then lastly, I always like to just kind of comb my yarn a little bit with my hand and then trim the bottom. Just kind of give it a little haircut. One long piece left. And then there is another little tassel. So again, we're going to decorate these as well at the end. We're just going to go through making all of our tassels first. So that way you guys can have a couple of tassels made by the end here and we can decorate them all together. And the decorating part is definitely the part that is fun and you can make it as wild or as simple as you want. Okay. So let's see here. I think we'll do a little green ghost next. So again, we're following the same exact steps to make a tassel here. I'm going to hold the cardboard in one hand, taking the end of my yarn, laying it right on top of my edge, and then holding it with one finger at the top. So now I can take my yarn and wrap it down, under, and around. Oh, and this just got a little blurry here, hang on. So again, wrap it around and around your cardboard. If you're using a different material than cardboard, maybe a book or a thick envelope or something like that, you're doing the same exact steps. Your little piece of cardboard just might be a little bit thicker than mine, but your ghost will look about the same. And again, wrap it around 20, 25 times. So you can see as I wrap it around, it goes onto the other side and then back onto itself. So once you have a thick little loop of yarn connected to your cardboard, go ahead and trim off your yarn to disconnect it from the rest of your spool. And now I'm going to just tuck that little piece of a tail into the loop so it doesn't unwind itself. So you can see we've got all of that set there. And now we are going to do our little top knot on the top of our tassel again. So going to have about a foot of yarn here that I just cut off. I'm going to pull the full chunk of yarn on one side of the cardboard. See there, I'm pulling it away from the cardboard. And I'm going to slide this little piece of yarn underneath. And then pull it to one end and then tie a knot. So we have a little knot on one end and then slide it off your cardboard. Again, now you've got this off of your cardboard, you've got this whole little loop of yarn. And in order to create a full tassel, I'm gonna hold the one side that has a knot in one hand, and then I can just cut right in the middle of that loop to create this little tassel. Sometimes I'll flip the whole thing around to hide that little knot. Then you have a nice little smooth top instead of a knot. So we basically got a tassel already, but we're gonna add our little neck tie in the middle. So let's do that with a little bit of white yarn here. So again, I'm gonna cut about a foot of extra yarn. And then we'll just lay this piece right on top. And I'm laying it about the same length as my tassel. So that way I have extra yarn to tie my knot with at the end. So I'm holding that in place and then I'm just gonna wrap it around about an inch or so down, around a couple of times to make a little neck. And you can wrap this as big or as small as you want. You can just do one little loop and tie it off, or you can make it really thick if you want to keep wrapping. So once you have a good little wrap on it, we're going to tie another little knot here. I'm going to cut off the excess. There we have it. And you can see my end is all a little bit scraggly. So we're just gonna give this little ghost a haircut at the bottom. Cut off any little bits that don't line up. And there you have a beautiful little tassel. That's what's fun now. You are learning how to make tassels. These are some of my favorites to add to the tops of gifts, or you can string them all together to make little garlands. So ours we're making ghosts, but now you know how to make tassels. You can make jewelry and party decorations and fun stuff for your room. So now you'll know how to make as many different tassels as you want. All right, so again, we're gonna make another tassel here. Do it in our white yarn next. So one more time, I'm gonna hold the tail of my yarn at the top of my cardboard with one hand, and then I can control the yarn with my other hand here. I'm gonna go down, under, and around the cardboard. So you can see it's on both sides. And then just keep going around and around. And again, I'm making some fun Halloween colors, but maybe you are making some ghosts to match your house or your room or your Halloween costume. So if you are making yours in some different colors today, you can always let us know in the Q&A what colors you're using to make your little ghosts. right, so again, wrapping around and around. All right, so now once I've gotten to the top again, I'm gonna go ahead and cut off, setting the whole spool of yarn free. And now I can tuck this little tail of yarn underneath. See, got a whole little loop of yarn there. And now the same steps, we're gonna cut about a foot of yarn off. And then pulling your yarn away from the cardboard, go underneath, pull it over to have about equal amounts on both sides. And then just pull that to one end. And here we're going to tie another knot. So again, we're going to cross our two pieces to make a little loop and then go through the middle and pull it tight. So same thing here again, cross over our two little pieces of yarn, creating a little loop here, a little circle. Take one piece underneath and through the circle and pull tight. And then pull that off. And then we're going to cut one side. So I'm holding on to this edge here, one end that has a little knot that we just tied. And then I'm going to use my scissors to cut through all the yarn on the other end. So now we have like this long chunk of yarn, but then once we turn it upside down to hide our little knot inside, and this one's starting to look like a little ghost. So then we're going to take another little piece of yarn here to tie the little neck. Again, I've got my little tassel in one hand, lay your extra piece of yarn on top. So you can see it's about the same length. Hold that steady with one hand, and then take your other hand and wrap your yarn around and around. So you can see it's similar to making the tassel base itself, but instead of around the cardboard, we're wrapping it around the yarn. So using the same sort of techniques of having to hold all of the yarn in one hand and wrap with the other. So you kind of use the same technique over and over to make tassels. All right, and then I'm just going to trim off the extra there. And then lastly, if you want to, you can trim off the extra here. There you go. Okay. What do we think, Lori? Should we make one more tassel or should we start decorating?
I think that we are ready to start decorating.
All right. That is my favorite part. I'm sure you guys already know, but I love all these fun little details. And we get to use all of our favorite kid-made modern materials. All right, so now we've got a different little tassel, one in every color that we made together here. And from here, we can decorate it as much or as little as you want. So you can easily add some little eyeballs if you want to do little googly eyes or little felt cutouts, and you can have yours just be simple. Or you can add tons of little details like little pom-poms like we did here. So we're going to go through a couple different styles. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my little wooden craft stick and I'm going to put it in the middle of my tassel. This is going to give us a nice little handle so you can easily move your ghosts or make them sway like a little ghost. So what I'm going to do is take my tassel. I'm going to kind of split all of this little hair at the bottom, flip it over, and then I'm going to take my wooden craft stick and push it into the little neck that we just made. So now you can see it's sitting right on top. So I didn't use any glue. You can glue it in if you want to. If your little neck feels too tight and you're having a hard time, you can definitely stick a little glue dot on the end and push it there instead. We're going to do that again with all 4 of our little ghosts here. So again, I'm just going to split all the loose tassel yarn at the end, flip it kind of upside down here. And then I'm going to push my little craft stick right into the center. This is totally optional as well. If you'd rather hang your little ghosts or you just want to play with them, you can still hold them by their little neck instead. But this is a nice little handle to add to them. So again, we're going to do this for all 4 of them. So I'm going to split my tassel at the bottom. And then I'm going to take one end of my little wooden craft stick and just kind of work it way into the tied off little neck. And that's going to hold it tight there. You can see it's not falling out.
Tessa, Gail is back with us today, and she said this technique is good for making a larger yarn doll too, which is a great idea.
That is a great idea. Welcome back, Gail. Yes, you could definitely do this in a larger way and you can make a big yarn doll. I think that would be so cute. I think you should definitely make one of those. All right, so you can see we've got our little wooden craft sticks in all 4 of them. And next we can add some cute little details. So I'm going to add some little googly eyes to some. Let's see here. We've got some fun little colorful ones, or also just some plain little mini black googly eyes. You can do them in as many different sizes you want. Maybe your ghost has a lot of eyes, maybe it has 1 eye, maybe it has no eyes. That's up to you. Okay, so I'm going to take a couple little googly eyes and I'm going to stick a glue dot on the back. So again, this is my roll of glue dots. They are just little pre-done adhesive or little, they almost are like a circle of double-sided tape. So it's going to go right on the back. You can see it's a little shiny on the back there, and that's the little glue dot. And from here, I can just stick it directly on to the face of my ghost. I'm going to take my little glue dot that's on the back of my googly eye and then just press it right onto the yarn. So you can see that sticks really great on fabric. If you are using like a liquid craft glue, it might take a long time to dry. The yarn will absorb all of that glue, so it'll take a little longer. So just go ahead and set your googly eyes and then you can come back to it later. All right, so took another little googly eye here and pushing it right on. And there are some fun little eyeballs. So you can see here, I just the same color, but 2 different sizes. And then we can add some other fun little details. So I think that this one would be cute with a little extra. So I'm going to take a little fuzzy stick here in orange. I'm just going to wrap it around to create sort of like a little scarf. Wrapped it around a couple of times here. And I have 2 little edges. I'm just going to twist them together. And that is a very fashionable ghost, if I do say so. So that adds a little pop of color, some texture, as well as a little fun color for Halloween. And again, you can do as many different little elements as you want. So we're going to add some more eyes to this little ghost. I think we'll just do, what do you think? 1 big eye in the middle. So again, I'm just going to use my glue dots. The glue dot on the back of my little googly eye. I'm just going to push it right into the little head of the tassel. And then we can add some other fun elements. Like I think let's do some little pom-poms on this one. So I'm just going to use my glue dots again and put a glue dot on each pom-pom. Maybe you'll see that a little bit more. That little shiny circle on the back is the little glue dot. And then just pushing it right onto the yarn. So now he's got a little pom-pom hat.
As Tessa's decorating, just so everyone knows, I put in the chat Tessa's Instagram handle. Tessa is always crafting. So if you want to look at more fun crafts that Tessa's doing, and she usually promotes our Michael's classes as well, so you can stay up to date as well. Her Instagram handle is @ShopStudioJane. I'm sure she would love to see your crafts that you created, your tassel ghost with us today as well. So feel free to tag her in your pictures.
Yes, thank you. Please do. I love seeing all the fun things you guys make and how you turn maybe an idea that I had, and then you always make them so much better. You come up with all these cool ideas and use different materials that I didn't think about. So I love seeing what you make and getting inspired. So please share with us what you guys made. So for this little one, again, I'm just kind of sticking different pom-poms all over. And again, these are all just optional decorations. So you can use as many different styles as you want. Maybe all yours will be the same, and that's adorable as well. So now that I did little glue dots and pom-poms, this little ghost is done. All right, next up, I'm going to use some felt here. So you can do all googly eyes if you want. I'm going to cut a couple of circles out of felt as well. So this little black strip of felt, you could definitely use construction paper as well, or any color that you want. But I'm just going to take my scissors and cut 2 little oval eyes. And I'm not drawing them, I'm just kind of freehand cutting. As we saw with the other ghosts, I think they're kind of fun when they all have different eyes, so you don't have to worry about them being exactly the same shape or same size. Maybe that makes them even better. See there, I just cut out 2 little ovals. And we'll do this one on the orange ghost so we can see them against that. I'm gonna take my little felt circles or ovals, and again, just put a little glue dot on the back. And then we're gonna stick it directly onto the little head of our tassel. I'm just gonna smush them on there. And then there, I've got some big hollow eyes. All right, I think we'll do another little bit of a fuzzy stick. So I'm gonna wrap it around its neck again here to add a little fun detail, but maybe you wanna add it around the top of its head as well. I'm just kind of twisting it and playing with it as I go. And the great thing about fuzzy sticks is you can untwist them as well. So if you feel like you don't like that style, you can easily take it all apart. And my little wooden craft stick just fell out of this little ghost. So I'm just going to push it back in. Again, if yours are falling out, maybe your necks aren't tight enough or they're too tight, just stick a little glue dot on the top as well. It'll be perfect. Now it's got a fun little headband. All right, so we've got our last little ghosty ghost here. And I think we'll do some more little googly eyes. Take a couple more. With this, I'm just going to do the same thing. One glue dot on the back of each googly eye. And what's great about them is that they dry immediately, so you can easily start playing with your little ghosts or take them places if you want to. Okay, so now my little ghost has little eyes. And we're gonna add some cute little details coming out from the tassel on this one. So to do that, I'm going to take my little fuzzy stick here. I'm going to cut it in half. I'm going to do that with 2 different fuzzy sticks. So now I have 4 shorter pieces. And then I'm going to wrap it around my finger to make a little spiral. So I'm going to hold it and then just wrap it, just like we kind of wrapped it around the neck of our ghost, or we wrapped the yarn around the cardboard. Just wrap it around on itself. And I'm going to hold both ends and just pull. And now you have a fun little spiral. We're going to do that with all 4 of these. So again, I'm holding one end of the fuzzy stick between my finger and my thumb on one hand. And then I'm going to take it and wrap it around the tip of my finger. And then hold both ends and just pull it apart. You can also wrap these around a pencil or a colored pencil, a marker, if you're having a hard time holding on to it around your finger. And when you pull them out, they just create these fun little spiral shapes, which I love little spiral fuzzy sticks. I think these are also cute to add to other little decorations or gifts. Okay, so now that we've got all these 4, we're going to add these little spiral legs or tentacles into our tassels. So I'm going to take my little fuzzy stick, one end here, and I'm going to put a glue dot on one end. And then I'm going to kind of separate all my yarn here and then press my little fuzzy stick glue dot into the wooden craft stick underneath. So once we kind of cover this up, you'll just have these fun little pops of stripes or color and some cute little tentacle shapes coming out the bottom. Maybe they're a little smoky look, or maybe they're legs. You can use your imagination, whatever you think, or you can add all sorts of fun little details here. So I'm doing the same thing here. Just going to separate my yarn and then press my little glue dot into the wooden craft stick. You can see now these are coming out a little longer. You can trim them if you want. I think they're kind of fun that they're showing. And I'm going to flip it over to the back and do the same with the other 2 pieces. And I'm using 2 different colors. You can use more if you want, less. Okay, got my little glue dot on one end, and I'm just going to push it right onto my wooden craft stick and do the same thing with our last one. Now, once I flip this over, shake all my yarn, it hides how it's all connected with the yarn. And then you have all these fun little spiral legs, tentacles, spider legs coming out the bottom. And now we have the cutest and most fashionable little ghosts all ready for Halloween. So you can play with them, you can set them up, you can take them with you. Maybe you want to write someone's name on the little craft stick here. You can give them away to friends or family. And there you have all of your cute new little ghost friends all finished and ready for Halloween. So now you can make as many as you want. We've still got a few more weeks until Halloween, so you guys can play with them or decorate all season long. And we are going to be back in a couple of weeks to do more crafting with you guys for Halloween. Next up, we are going to be here making these fun spider garlands. So you can see here, we are back with googly eyes and fuzzy craft sticks. We're going to string them all together to make a fun garland to hang on your wall or your front door and decorate in time for Halloween. Thanks so much for crafting with us today, you guys. I hope that you had fun and have a spooky day. Bye.